Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Variant Edition's new releases show. My name is Brandon, and from the studio here at the store, which will, as I keep saying, will still be in development. Gonna do some interesting things. I think I'm gonna have some stuff go up on the wall here pretty soon, and might do something a little different with the backdrop here. I do want to try and incorporate the store's I was gonna say original sign, but we actually got a different sign in the first place. I don't think we actually have it anymore. It was like a big kind of board. Oh yeah, and it was on the side of the Dirks building for a long time. And I think we left it there. I'm not 100% sure. Anyways, it's not here anymore. We've got this, which is the sign that most people know, because that was the sign that after we got our first sign done and approved by our original landlord, they said, actually, can it be done in this style to match with the building? Would be great to know, after the first one was approved, all that kind of stuff. Why would you need to do that, though? So, that happened. And what I want is to have sort of that in the background here somewhere. I might kind of move this up to have more field of vision on the background. I'm not sure. But it can be done. And yeah, outside of that, things have been going wild in the comics industry. I've titled this batch "The End of the Diamond Age of Comics." Now, most of you probably know, some of you might not, but okay. Good. I was just seeing if the Instagram was going, and it is. So some of you might know, most of you might not, or sorry, other way around. Most of you will probably know, some of you might not. The comics industry has a whole bunch of different ages. And a lot of that is actually accredited to the size of comics back in the day. Golden Age was sort of when the medium of single issues really started to take off. And those books were almost kind of like more of our modern magazine size, probably just a little bit shorter and thinner. But that was the golden age of comics way back at the start of it all. I believe in the 40s. Around the 60s is when the Silver Age really kicks off. A lot of people point to the Fantastic Four #1 as the one that really kicks off that age. And then sizing of comics changed. They're still a little larger than the modern size now. And then eventually we got to the Bronze Age, which is where you have the modern style comics. Now, everyone's had opinions about what they call the modern age of comics. Since the Bronze Age wrapped up, a lot of folks say like late 70s, early 80s-ish. Somewhere in there, it's a little fuzzy because without a specific format change, there wasn't really anything to do. Though I've always put forward that there should be something tied to the direct market forming in terms of the age of comics. The direct market is the system by which comics went from publishers straight to comic stores. Comic stores were kind of a new thing back then, and a few folks ended up approaching Marvel and DC more directly to say, like, what if we could pick what comics that we want? You sell them to us on a non-returnable basis. And the comic companies really like that because everything that went on newsstand could be returned and strip covered, and then there was like losses there. So the direct market formed, really pushed by a guy named Phil Suling. And he kind of pioneered a lot of what the direct market would be, which originally was the comics companies selling directly to retailers, hence the direct market. But when he started distribution program and other places started the distribution programs, they scaled back from dealing directly with all these stores because that's like a lot to deal with when you can have a middleman do it. So that's when kind of direct market distribution started happening, and then emerging from that, Diamond ended up being far and away a front runner. They ate or destroyed pretty much any of the other distributors until they became a monopoly. So, and they have been a fixture of, I would say, this modern age. So I'm with Diamond on the ropes right now. I kind of think it even fits with the like bronze, gold, silver to do sort of like a diamond age in a way. But Andrew says, I usually go with the dark age, starting with Watchmen and DKR, running through Image's creation up until Marvel's bankruptcy. I've heard a lot of people also describe that area as the Chrome age because of the fancy covers and whatnot. And then like the easiest one is everyone just like, oh, the modern age of comics. Like, yeah, it makes sense. It's the modern age of comics. What are you going to do? But yeah, so there's been news on the Diamond front, as a lot of you know. 2 weeks ago today, Diamond announced that they'd filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which would allow them to continue to function during this period of time. They nabbed themselves $41 million in capital from JP Morgan to kind of see operations through this period of time and to pay off debts. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, that means like comic companies should be getting money that's owed to them. That's apparently not necessarily true from what I've seen. A lot of this is dependent on like the sale of Diamond and all that kind of stuff, and how the debts would end up being repaid even through this loan that's happening right now. And so there's also a chance that a lot of these publishers won't see money for like a full year. And even at the end of that, depending on how the shape of Diamond, might not work. So there's a lot of companies that are really looking at their bottom lines, trying to figure some things out. I know that Vault Comics has announced that as of pretty much immediately, they're going to stop doing single issues, and they're going to go to trade paperback only. Massive announced that they were using this as the opportunity to end their exclusive agreement with Diamond and to look for other means of distribution, but that they would also be putting a pause on any single issue releases during this time until they could kind of figure out some paths forward. And American Mythology, which I've described as your granddaddy's comics, they had properties like the Three Stooges and Pink Panther, amongst a few others. They put forward that they might just have to close up shop in general. They've been in contact with Lunar and Penguin and anyone else who is a player at the moment to see if they could get some distribution through them. But Lunar is not taking on any newcomers right now. They are apparently at capacity ever since they took on Image. I believe it's been over a year. I think so. Anyways. Since they took on Image, they've actually been building a larger facility so that they can have room to grow. But they're currently not taking anybody in. Penguin has apparently had some conversations with a few different distributors, including Keenspot. Now, Keenspot are the folks who are publishing what is one of the hottest books on the market right now, is Mark Spear's Monsters. A lot of speculation on that. Some of the first issues are going for hundreds of dollars right now. And it comes out like once every 2 to 3 months or so. There's some new printings on the way. The fourth issue has grown to sales of, and apparently they're looking at a print run of like 70,000, which for a very small company is pretty huge, but the orders are there. So, well, they put out a statement, not necessarily publicly, but I do want to share some of this with you because it is fairly frank about where things are right now. You may be wondering how KeenSpot is handling Diamond's Chapter 11 filing. At first, we were terrified, all caps, of course, but since then, we had multiple talks with Diamond, and we feel confident enough to continue offering comics through them. They have $41 million in financing from JP Morgan Chase to continue business as usual, and what is hopefully a solid plan to get back on track. That said, if we want to keep supplying awesome KeenSpot comics like Mark Spears Monsters to thousands of comic stores every month, brackets, and we most definitely do, we honestly do not have a choice but to continue with Diamond. We do offer retailers the ability to order our comics at wholesale directly through us. They may give an email, but as of now, Lunar seems to have no interest in carrying our regular line. And boy, howdy, have we tried to convince them to. Embarrassingly so, is what is said. And while we're in talks with Penguin Random House, and they've been super nice and responsive, we don't see that deal happening anytime soon either. Because Penguin really operates on quarterly schedule. Penguin bought Boom Comics last year. They were going to move their direct market distribution to Penguin Random House in July. That got escalated to April, and I'm assuming the reason why it got escalated to April and not anytime sooner is because quarterly budgets. They needed to build it in with the next quarterly, and so the soonest that they could really start is April. So my guess is if at that time Boom was going to start in July, maybe there's some room in the schedule in July to take on some publishers, but likely we're looking at if there's some smaller publishers that are going to find some purchase at Penguin. One, they're going to find that their collected editions will need to be carried through there too. That's kind of Penguin's whole deal, is we can help distribute your single issues, and then you would be exclusive to us for your book market needs and your direct market needs. We'd likely not see a lot of companies find purchase there until October, when the next quarterly would kind of come around. So if you think about this, there'd be like a gap of whatever happens with Diamond now to October, where a lot of these companies will just be kind of like figuring out what to do. Do they continue publishing? How does cash flow work during these times? What money can they get to people that they owe money to, because Diamond hadn't paid them for a lot of their latest projects? It gets really busy. Now, something more interesting that popped up here that kind of gives a better line of timelines. We have an article from the Baltimore Business Journal. Now, if you go to the Baltimore Business Journal, it is paywalled, but there is a non-paywalled version that can be found at archive.today. If I can, I'll send this link where I can comment. But Baltimore Business Journal, because Diamond is headquartered in Baltimore. I'm just going to check Instagram to see if anybody has made comments. Gregory. Dazzler. So, Hunt Valley comic distributor warns of possible headquarter closure and layoffs. A Baltimore County comic distributor that filed for bankruptcy earlier this month has notified the state that it may have to close down its headquarters and lay off more than 100 people if it can't find a buyer. Diamond Comic Distributors filed a notice Tuesday with the Maryland Work Adjustment and Retaining Notification Log, which is shortened to WARN, W-A-R-N, for when it comes up later. Log that 168 employees could lose their jobs if the company is forced to close its Hunt Valley headquarters amid Chapter 11 bankruptcy proceedings. A spokesperson for Diamond confirmed in an email to the Baltimore Business Journal that the company will have to close the York Road office if a buyer isn't found. The potential closure would occur on April 1st, according to the WARN log. Diamond plans to auction off its assets on March 24th, with a sale closing on April 10th. according to documents filed in the U.S. Bankruptcy Court for the District of Maryland. The Hunt Valley headquarters will remain operational while Diamond tries to find a buyer. And then it kind of describes a little bit of the flavor here. Diamond once had a near monopoly on getting comics into the hands of retailers and has a significant amount of assets that could tempt potential buyers. Those assets are offset, however, by a similar number of liabilities. The company estimated it has more than $50 million in liabilities and plans to sell off a large portion of its $50 million to $100 million in assets. Diamond said in court records that it would be difficult to find a buyer unless a significant number of contracts and leases needed to operate the distributor's day-to-day operations are included in any possible transaction. Diamond has already found some success in the acquisitions market. Universal Distribution, which is where we get a majority of our single issues from, submitted a $39 million stalking horse bid for Alliance Games Distributor, an arm of the firm that delivers board games. In bankruptcy, a stalking horse bid is the first one made on a company's assets, protecting the debtor from low bids. Universal also entered a non-binding letter of intent with Diamond to acquire the company's United Kingdom branch. JP Morgan Chase has agreed to provide Diamond with $41 million in financing that will be used to fund the remaining operations and pay employees throughout the bankruptcy process. Most of the money will pay down debt to Diamond at the time of the filing, leaving $8.4 million available to the company for other expenses, according to those in the know. But yeah, and then it kind of gets lost behind some ads. But it basically goes into the fact that Steve Jeppe, the main owner of Diamond, is a personal guarantor for this loan, and so if the sale doesn't go through, he's on the hook for a lot of money. Oh, 41 million to be sure. So that's a lot. I know that's a lot. But now we actually have sort of like the full view of what's going on. So the appearance of at least the Chapter 11 proceedings, the reason why you would file Chapter 11 is so that you can continue to operate during the bankruptcy proceedings, whereas a Chapter 7, you basically cease operations and start selling off. Folks pointed out that Chapter 11 seemed to assume that Diamond wanted to continue to operate even beyond, this chunk of time here. But from the sounds of what they're doing, unless they get a buyer interested in a business that has gotten to a position where they had to claim bankruptcy, unless there is a solid buyer there, Diamond as it exists ceases to be. Now, could parts of Diamond survive? It does sound like parts of it will be able to be sold for different bits of the organization. Does that mean someone ends up buying Diamond as a whole and taking on their leases? There's some scuttlebutt, some like little whispers that Universal might be making a play to just swallow the whole operation, which would be very interesting. That would mean that in a roundabout way, Diamond would once again have access to DC Comics, as Universal is a full distributor for DC Comics. They also sub-distribute Marvel Comics. They in Canada, they sub-distribute Image. They apparently can't do so in the States, and I'm almost wondering if, because there was a little bit of confusion in the last couple of weeks where Universal was originally told by Image and Lunar that they would be able to sell product to the States for wholesale Image Comics to the States. And then in a short time later, we're told absolutely they can't. And so I'm almost wondering if this is sort of like those in the know type of thing. Why would something like that change unless there's a change in policy? But honestly, it's hard to say. Honestly, Universal might just buy some of the assets and not Diamond as it functions today. Like that warehouse is the leases and stuff like have got to be a burden. and there could be leaner and meaner ways to do it. On the other hand, the Diamond Warehouse is one of the few places in the world that's built to specifically distribute single issue comics. And they have over the years put in a chunk of change into those various facilities for this purpose. So it'll be very interesting to see sort of how things shake out from there. And if anybody kind of goes in to even get a foothold, maybe Universal does want a pre-built warehouse in the States ready to go so that they can become potentially one of the two big markets. And that would be really interesting to have, two sources to get DC Comics from. Penguin Random House would still be wholesaling to them. You could be able to get their Marvel from them too. Like, who knows what this could do? Maybe Lunar would end up getting in on the Marvel wholesale game. You don't know. Honestly, they might not have the capacity for it, but and what choices will these folks make? Having talked with Universal, having that Diamond UK would be very interesting for them because they supposedly have a bunch of clients from around the world because shipping from Lunar, the DC product from Lunar, just didn't make sense, and it made a sort of sense from getting it from Universal. So having an outlet in Europe could even help out with that. They could essentially be a global distribution point for single issues and comics in general. That would be pretty cool. Oh, talking too much. But yeah, that's all what's going on with Diamond. Apparently we'll find out, or at least there'll be a process of auction on March 24th. And we should probably see some information around that then. Until then, they're just doing their damnedest, doing their best. There was a note last week that if any shops were getting their Penguin Random House stuff, that would be so Marvel single issues, IDW, Dark Horse. If they were getting any of that ordered from Diamond, this week's stuff would be delayed until next week. Apparently there was some unforeseen circumstances, is what I believe the note said, but it has kind of emerged in the meantime that delay was because Penguin Random House was also going to stop sending Diamond product, and that they worked something out so that flow could continue. But at that point in time, obviously, shipment wouldn't arrive in time for things to go. But Diamond didn't say that. And Image Comics, I don't know if I was able to give you guys this update. So when last we spoke about Diamond, which was 2 weeks ago, Image and Lunar had basically said that if you had placed final order cutoff orders from that previous Monday for Image books, basically books I believe that would be shipping next week, that if you placed those orders through Diamond, you needed to move them to Lunar immediately because Diamond would not be getting that product. The following day, Diamond sent out a message saying that, quote, they were made aware of an email that said they would not be getting product from that set of orders, and that they would have a meeting with Image about this. At that said meeting, they intended to kind of hash things out, and they said that by this coming weekend, we should be able to have Image books back on FOC, final order cutoff, and you'll be able to order books through Diamond. But at this time, they would be honoring Image's request to cancel current orders and move on from there. And I'm like, well, you're not honoring their request if they're not sending you anything to fill any orders made. That's not we'll play it your way. All right, we'll cancel those orders because we definitely won't have any product anyways. That's not how that works. Yeah. So that email went out from Diamond, and then the following Thursday, or basically the next day, Lunar sent out an email being like, oh, so in addition to not sending stuff from this past fund order cutoff, we're also not sending them from the week before. So if you have any orders, please let us know, because Diamond also won't be getting any of those either. Basically cut off immediately and retroactively. So a lot of retailers had to end up scrambling, especially when it was discovered that Universal would not be able to help those people out from their Canadian warehouse in the States, which I think is just, in this time, you want people to be able to have access to the books. You want, as a company, as Image, I would think, you would want as little disruption as possible. And this has been fairly disruptive, especially kind of being told that, oh yeah, this thing will be fine. And then a couple of minutes later, just like, oh, actually, no, it's not. Better figure out your Lunar account right now, or else you're not getting Image. It's a little rough. But all I could think of when I got that email on Thursday, when they're just like, oh, Diamond's not even getting even more product. I was like, well, sounds like that meeting that Diamond said they wanted went well. And according to different sourcing, Image has pretty much outright refused to have meetings with Diamond at this point. So that's interesting. We'll see how this all develops, as we say. All right. It's been 30 minutes. Last week I took a bunch of questions for a new segment that we're going to start next week. If only because there was a lot to talk about this week, and I'm already half an hour into this. We haven't even gotten to wee little stacky. It's just a little wee stack today. Just a little bit of stuff. Oh.
Sometimes I like annihilation, and you just walk straight through them.
All right, Mr. Deep Voice. Nope. We're just going to do this for now. Thank you. I don't like when there's like more chatter happening, because it's hard to listen to everything at once, you know? Anyways. Where was I, having been interrupted by a very, very deep voiced man? I'm going to do a segment in the coming weeks because I found the gavel that I made when I was in high school in shop class. And it'll end up being a segment where I legally and bindingly decide the answers to all of your biggest questions for the comics industry. It could be kind of more fictional questions like who would win in a fight, blah, blah, blah. Or it could just be industry stuff in general. And I'll give you my absolute solid, definitive answers that cannot be argued with. You could try and argue, you know, and I'd respect that, but I'm just a conduit for the universe. All right. I will just drink in what the universe is telling me. I'll make the decision, and then gavel, gavel, gavel. It will be decided. Not sure what the name of it's going to be, but it's going to be fun. Good times. Well, yeah. Finally. Oh, press one of those buttons. Finally, an outlet where all of the biggest questions in the comics industry can be decided by me and the universe. Because we all need some solid information in these wild, wild times. All right, friends. We've got a wee little stacky to take care of here today. Books and whatnot are really going to kick off once again next week. January has been a fairly light month, but this week we have a release of something that I'm actually very excited to share with all of you, because it is a beautiful book, and I feel like a weird bit of a balm for our modern times. It is called The Seasons. It is about it's going to be about 4 sisters, and just basically their adventures, but the way that they have this plotted out, sort of like a walk through this city where I believe her name is Spring Seasons. Yeah, Spring Seasons works as a letter carrier. The plot of this kind of takes you through the city. The art by Paul Adeseta does an amazing job of like running you through all these different areas, meeting different characters, and putting together a really good story, kind of like a show and not tell type of thing. What I really like about this, and this is sort of like where it really all came together for me, was like, what is this that I'm feeling? And then the simple descriptor in the back by Rick Remender. They wanted to do something that was a love letter to Tintin and like Winsor McCay stories like Little Nemo and Slumberland and Miyazaki movies. As he says, something both whimsical and dreadful, something that was high adventure with real stakes and fully developed characters with something to say. Oh, and it would be beautiful and most importantly, hugely imaginative. So this is what I really like about this book is it feels like this high adventure book, but there is this sense of foreboding that's kind of lingering. And so you get this optimism bleeding through, but with a reminder that, you know, even in the wildest of worlds, brimming with imagination and beauty, there are kind of things creeping around the edges, and how we can interact with them, both in sort of like in a positive manner and sort of like engaging with fun adventure in interesting ways. I really enjoyed this book. I'm going to be putting it into a lot of people's hands, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Sean, I did get that request for a decision. I'll add it to my list of decisions to make. Let's just do a quick check on Insta to see if there's any comments there. I think we are still good. Thank you for everybody who has been joining us on Instagram. Your comments, if they do pop up there, don't end up going on my StreamYard stuff, because Instagram has a weird little interface when it comes to doing live streams from multiple places. They like you to be in one place. We have Storm Life Dream. This is Marvel Voices special, which is where they focus on different sets of creators, definitely focusing on more minority creators. This one, of course, is focusing on Storm and has a lot of different African-American voices here. And every the plot here has 3 sections, and it really goes through different sections of Aurora's life, both sort of like in modern reflection and just sort of like kind of rebuilding some of the story points. Good for folks who have been grabbing the Storm series. It's a little something different, and it is celebrating her 50 years of being in existence. This year, I'll be celebrating 40 years of being in existence. So fancy. And just like me to make something like this about me. Brandon, you ridiculous human being. You're a bad person. All right. We have the 43rd issue of Ice Cream Man. Now, some might think, why are you putting up the 43rd issue of Ice Cream Man? Well, this issue is chock-a-block filled with one-page horror stories from a bevy of folks, including the regular creative team of Maxwell Prince and Martin Morazzo. Morazzo does the art for everything, but you have stories from Grant Morrison, Patton Oswalt, Zoe Thorogood, Jeff Johns, Jeff Lemire, Kelly Sue DeConnick, Matt Fraction, good old Neon, Dennis Camp, and Frank Barbieri. And I'm really excited to dig into this, in part because Matt Fraction's my favorite comics writer. I've started saying that Matt Fraction is my favorite comics writer, and Ram V is my favorite working comics writer, the guy who is like really putting out content right now, whereas Matt Fraction kind of pops in about once a year anymore, and then in little stories like this. So I'm really excited about that. Really excited to see Dennis Camp in here. Dennis Camp, by the way, has an amazing book coming out soon called Assorted. Brandon. Assorted Crisis Events. It is basically what if like a big multiversal crisis thing was happening, and how do regular people deal with it? But it's beautifully not just that. I've been able to read the first 3 issues. The first one was completely done. The second one's it's just like the early lettering treatment, and color still needs to happen with them. But they're these beautiful stories about folks going through, a multiversal crisis, but in a lot of ways, personal crises as well. And it's beautiful. Each story is self-contained and kind of takes on a different focus of a person's life and experience. And each one of them affected me in a different way. I stopped after the third one because there's content for like the first 5 that was sent off. And the third one hit me so hard, especially with how folks have been interacting with each other lately in terms of like where people are at in life. It was absolutely brilliant. All 3 issues just hit me so hard. Eric Sawadsky is doing the art on it, and it's just another level of stuff. The second issue works almost like a clockwork that's popping through time, but there's almost a clockwork imagery that's built into it that floats through all these different stories, and when it all weaves together at the end, it's so amazing. And it also had me contemplating like how my diet works. I know that seems pretty wild, but definitely be talking more about that series to come. And I have reached out to Dennis to see if he'd be available to do anything leading up to that to help us sell it and to help you get more tuned with it, and then maybe just to talk with him in a little bit general. So that should be pretty cool coming up. Finally, for single issues, we have Star Wars: A New Legacy. This is a one-shot that features a lot of the bigger creators from Marvel's Star Wars comics from the last 10 years. And so you'll be seeing stories here from Charles Soule, Jason Aaron, Kieran Gillen, with Roman Rosanas doing the Charles Soule, Leonard Kirk doing the Jason Aaron, and Salva Espin doing the Kieran Gillen. This is very heavy on Dr. Aphra. I really enjoy that character, and you do get more of the murder droids as written by Kieran Gillen, which is always a treat. Speaking of Kieran Gillen, we have the first collected edition of The Power Fantasy. There's this regular edition, and then there's the direct to market only edition. Here's the quick pitch here. There are 6 superpowers on Earth, as in individuals with the destructive capacity of the nuclear arsenal of the USA. The planet's survival relies on them never, ever coming into conflict. Come dance to the ticking of the doomsday clock with Kieran Gillen and Casper Wingard. Some praise for this. A brilliant redefinition of the concepts of superpowers that illuminates how precarious great power competition renders our lives. Watch a masterpiece take form. That's from Spencer Ackerman. He is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and currently writing Iron Man. The kind of comics have been waiting for from Matt Fraction. and continues to create the impossible, a captivating superhero series where one fights the protagonists to do literally anything where one wants the protagonists to do literally anything but fight. And an apocalyptic cross between Watchmen and Succession, one of the year's most anticipated new comics. And yeah, it is pretty much a cross between Watchmen and Succession, just sort of like a bit of that tension, but then a lot going through it. Sean Allen says that Hira Yasumi was super cute. Really enjoyed it. This was a book that was a manga that we had in store that ended up on David Harper's Best of the Year. It was his choice for Best of the Year, and it's a nice, quiet manga story about a young man who inherits a house from an old lady that he kind of like took care of in a way, was just sort of like nice to and let her not feel forgotten, basically. Would hang out with them, and when she passes, he inherits this, and then his cousin ends up moving in to go to art school, and it's just basically like quiet stories about their life, both of them trying to coexist, and then just existing in general. It's a beautiful, calm manga series. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really happy you did too, Sean. The 5th volume of Department of Truth is finally out. So the one and only Foley, if you're still around these parts, know that one of these is a side for you as well. This has been one of our favorite books in forever. The store has an exclusive cover for the first volume. For those of you who don't know about the Department of Truth yet, it is essentially about this so-called department that exists in the US government that has been trying to keep what is real on track. Because as it turns out, when enough people start believing in a certain conspiracy theory or what have you, that will actually start to manifest, sort of like flat Earth will start to manifest unless adjustments are made to reality, more or less. And so it is this mix of what is a sense of reality, how does the world work, and also comments on how a lot of times we are living in different realities where for some people flat Earth is just a realistic part of their life that they just believe to be true. That is part of their reality, whether or not that may be part of our reality, and how that self-actualizes in a very interesting way in a horror book. I love the series. I'm so happy the next volume is out, and happy for more of it to be coming out later this year. And finally, we have Blood Train. It's a blood train, baby. Don't know why I felt like singing there, but I did. After backpacking through Asia, a group of friends climb aboard the Siberian Express, Siberian Express, to start their journey home. Little do they know, they've bought a one-way ticket to hell, as one of their own has been infected with a bioweapon that will turn them into a horrific monster, compelled to slaughter everyone on the train before it reaches its final destination. The friends now face the unthinkable choice: kill someone they love to stop this infection from spreading beyond this doomed train, or die trying. It's from writer Adam Glass, who's written for the Suicide Squad and the TV show Supernatural, with artist Bernard Chang, who's done some Deadpool and Superman. They describe it as 28 Days Later meets The Ruins in this adrenaline-laden tale of horror. Wappo. All right, folks, that's been a show. I have kept you on here for quite some time. I hope that you all had a fun time. I know Instagram doesn't really keep these videos, so if you want to know all the scuttlebutt about Diamond from the start, definitely check out the store's Facebook, YouTube, Twitch channels, where you can catch out the earlier editions of that to find out what's going on with Diamond, what's happening with different comic publishers as they try and navigate this, and what timelines Diamond's looking at in terms of survival and existence in the future. All fun stuff. That has been me for this week. I was going to say that has been you for this week as well. I hope you all are taking care of yourselves. And if not, I hope that you know that we're always here to talk about some stuff if you ever need. And that, we have this wonderful community that you're a part of, that we appreciate deeply. And that we as a store wouldn't be us without you. I appreciate all of you for being here today. I appreciate you all popping in the store and just having some chats. And that's been us for this week. I hope we'll see you again soon, whether it's on this channel here or just in the real world. We'll talk again soon. Bye.